The title of my talk today is The Fourth Quarter. Oh my, I can hear the groans coming all the way from New Jersey. No, it's not going to be a football talk. But I did notice something during the NFL playoff season, and that is that sometimes teams, when they get into the fourth quarter, they will change their style of play. They will change away from that which has got them this far to something that the coach or the offensive coordinator or somebody thinks is the best way to be. And they abandon this defense that has been so outstanding, and they go to a prevent defense because it's some human's idea that that's what they should do. We need a prevent defense. The only thing I've ever seen a prevent defense prevent is victory. And the offense, if they're behind, they're going to go to a hurry-up offense. And I have seen success with a hurry-up offense, but oftentimes it just creates confusion among the wide receivers. This idea of abandoning that which has proven so good for so long and going to something that is somebody's idea is a concept that we see in our lives as well. Sometimes we give up on those spiritual practices, the things that have stood by us for so long, and we go to our idea of what is right and what we should be doing. So our monthly theme, January, is Back to Basics. And today is the fifth and final one, the fifth and final Sunday. I also, before I forget, want to welcome everyone. Thank you for coming out today. Thank you for watching, whether it's live or later. It is indeed an honor and a privilege. And I also want to thank Sarah for filling in today. My goodness. Aaron's off getting a suntan in Hawaii. Yeah. So thank you, Sarah. You're awesome. And Karen just talked about how I'm downloading these things, and they don't always come when they're supposed to. I'm sitting there and I'm looking at, and man, we're on the last song, and I noticed something in my talk. My 2 points, I'm going to talk about surrender and then obstacles to surrender. But I never really tied in this idea of surrender with the concept of release. And this is the point. This is a key point. Probably just listen to this and forget the rest of it. That is, when I'm talking about surrender, I am speaking of letting go of those things that keep us from experiencing a life that is more fulfilled, more joy-filled, more fulfilling. And sometimes in our humanness, we grab onto those kinds of things and hold on to them so dearly that we end up losing the game in the fourth quarter. So my two talks, surrender and then obstacles to surrender, my two main points. Ernest Holmes, in his essay, The Great Surrender, talks about surrender as losing our lives. What he means is that we lose and let go of the aspects of our lives that hold us back from living with Spirit, God, you choose the name, whatever it is to you, at the center of your life. That this is some outside thing. It is a guy up there, or it is whatever. When we don't keep that, your concept of your higher power, at the center of what we do, we miss out on so much. Holmes says that humanity has a tendency to define life by external conditions, the outside, the things that we look at. In our philosophy, we believe that life is an internal experience. In unifying ourselves with the one mind, we know that life is eternal, that the external objects and objections before us are merely sins. Not sins like in 7 deadly sins, but sins in the term of archery, where the word really comes from, which simply means missing the mark. Instead, we return to the source of our being so that we can live in harmony with the divine that is always with us. Now, surrender is not waving a white flag at life and saying, I give up. It is not waving a white flag at the problems that we encounter. And every one of us encounter problems. It is releasing that which does not express our highest good. Nadia Bolz-Weber wrote, and every single time I die to something, my notions of my own specialness, my plans and desires for something to be a very particular way, every single time I fight it, and yet every single time I discover more life, more freedom than if I had gotten what I wanted. When we let go of that, we can experience greater good in our lives. We have to release the thought that we have to do it all and that we have to do it my way. We get this idea that we have to do it all. We forget that we've got that infinite creative force on our team that is a part of who we are. And it will help us. It will guide us. It is part of our essence. Richard Rohr, in Falling Upward, wrote, your true self is who you objectively are from the beginning in the mind and the heart of God. The surrendering of our false self is necessary to find the pearl of great price. And of course, by the pearl of great price, he's talking about that life that's more fulfilled. And in that, we fail to trust the divine. It's like we think God can't possibly do that, I'm going to have to. Now, what's the reasoning in that? Oh my goodness, I've got so many papers up here when I stood up. I think the groans were the people saying, that man's got so many papers up there, he's going to talk all day. A lady by the name of Sheila Meador, I believe is the correct way to pronounce it, tells a compelling story, and it brings Zoe to mind. Sheila tells this story. She began to experience hearing loss at age 12, and it was progressive. It got worse and worse and worse the older she got. And it's got a big, long scientific name that I can't pronounce. She graduated from high school and married her high school boyfriend. As her hearing got worse, her boyfriend was ashamed of her inability to hear. He refused to learn sign language. They didn't have the best of relationships. She had a really difficult life. In part of her story, she talks about praying, and she even went to a revival and had a very deep experience and really fully expected to be healed, to be able to hear again. And she was devastated when it didn't happen. And after time, she returned to prayer. And this is what she said. One morning she woke up and she said her morning prayers, as always. God, I know you have a plan for my life. I thought as I got out of bed one morning, please let me. My familiar prayer was interrupted by a strong new thought. Why did I keep waiting for God to fix me? Why wasn't I changing my life myself? In that moment, it was as if something was suddenly unveiled, a way of thinking that hadn't previously seemed possible. Maybe God hadn't changed me because I didn't need changing. He already prepared a life for me. I just had to start living it. Once I'd made up my mind to try, my deafness didn't hold me back. I graduated from college at 42. I taught myself to write programming code, and I got a job in IT. I even pushed through my fear of being on my own and got divorced, no longer willing to live with a partner who didn't believe in me. And that's the key lesson for today, is that when we step out and we allow that God to live its life, live our life, we can experience wonderful things, but we're never going to do it if we don't take those steps and do that. Came across this quote and I love it. A guy by the name of Max Lucado wrote, "Faith is not the belief that God will do what you want. Faith is the belief that God will do what is right." I think that's where that goes. And also somewhere in this pile. This, Ann put it in the e-blast today, and it fits so perfect. Change is the essence of life. Be willing to surrender what you are for what you could become. Okay, what are some of the obstacles to surrender that we experience? Perhaps the biggest obstacle that we run into is hate. And I think that mostly that hate is born of our own ego. It's a belief in our own superiority. It's a belief that things have to be our way. Ernest Holmes wrote in Living the Science of Mind, "You have to lose your hate if you wish to find love. You have to let go of everything that is unkind if you wish to discover kindness. You even have to surrender fear if you wish to discover faith." But other obstacles include belief in separation, that we have to be different because we have different skin colors, because we have different genders, because we have the things that make us so strong. All of these differences are not things that keep us bound in. We have to release that. The idea that we're better than others or even more deserving than others. Another obstacle is fear of lack and limitation. I believe that that is really the root cause of a lot of the wars that we have today. It is a firm belief that there is only so much good. There's only so much grain, there's only so much food, there's only so much of this, so much of that, and I need to bite, kick, scratch, declare war on somebody else, defeat them, and take theirs away, because there is a very finite amount of goodness and I better get my own. And nothing could be further from the truth. Powerful story. Lady by the name of Nina Chandler tells a story about speaking with her father. And I did a little bit of math in my head to figure out what this would be, and her father would have been exactly my mother's age. So I could really relate to what she was talking about. And when she told this story that he relayed to her, when he was 14 years old, it was the height of the Depression. And even though his father was a hard-working man with many trades, no work, no nothing on the little farm they were, it couldn't grow enough. He had to leave to go out and try and find work. He had to move, leave several counties away where he had heard that there were jobs. And it left her with the 6 kids by herself. And as the food supplies dwindled further and further down, of course, her father didn't know of this. He was only 14 at the time. But one night in bed, he woke up and he could hear someone crying. And he snuck out and he went to the source, and he could hear it coming from the kitchen, and he peeked into the kitchen, and there was his mom on her hands on her knees with her elbows on the flat part of the chair, praying. And she was asking for something to help her kids. I've got it in here somewhere. I knew that I had caught her in a private moment. Dad recited her prayer softly. I had no doubt that it was word for word what he'd heard that night. Our Father, dearest God, I have no food left for my children. No canned berries, no vegetables, no oatmeal or wheat. The chickens grow thin and no longer lay eggs. Please have mercy upon us. Please find a way to send us food. Thy will be done. Amen. And he snuck back to bed because he didn't want to intrude on her moment of intimacy with that infinite divine force. And he fell asleep. And he woke up to the sound of a car's engine. It's actually a small pickup truck in their driveway, and clear out there in the farm. They didn't get many visitors, particularly first thing in the morning. And who stepped out but the local grocer? And he had a big box. He jumped out of his truck and explained, Mrs. Silverberg, I couldn't sleep last night. I kept thinking about you and your 6 kids out here all alone with Oscar away. I packed some groceries for you. I hope it helps. It was an incredible answer to my mother's prayer. The food the grocer brought us kept us fed until my father returned home with money to buy new groceries. After witnessing Mom's prayer being answered, I realized things have a way of working out. It made me understand that you don't have to worry because God is always at work. Sometimes we fail to trust God and we think that we have to do all of everything, when really all we have to do is open up to receive. About once every decade, I recite a poem. Today will be that. This is a poem called She Let Go. It's by Reverend Sapphire Rose, one of the ministers in our movement. She let go. Without a thought or a word, she let go. She let go of all the fear. She let go of the judgments. She let go of the confluence of opinions swarming around her head. She let go of the committee of indecision within her. She let go of all the right reasons, wholly, completely, without hesitation or worry. She just let go. She didn't ask anyone for advice. She didn't read a book on how to let go. She didn't search the scriptures. She just let go. She let go of all the memories that held her back. She let go of all the anxiety that kept her from moving forward. She let go of the planning and all of the calculations about how to do it just right. She didn't promise to let go. She didn't journal about it. She didn't write about the projected date in her day timer. She made no public announcement, put no ad in the paper. She didn't check the weather report or read her daily horoscope. She just let go. She didn't analyze whether she should let go. She didn't call her friends to discuss the matter. She didn't do a 5-step spiritual mind treatment. She didn't call the prayer line. She didn't utter one word. She just let go. No one was around when it happened. There was no applause or congratulations. No one thanked her or praised her. No one noticed a thing. Like a leaf falling from a tree, she just let go. There was no effort. There was no struggle. It wasn't good and it wasn't bad. It was what it was, and it's just that. In the space of letting go, she let it all be. A small smile came over her face. A light breeze blew through her, and the sun and the moon shone forevermore. Conclusion. So a little different this week. Rather than wrap it up with a summation, I'm going to give you food for thought for this week. Some things for you to think about during this upcoming week. Number one, what does surrender look and feel like to you? Number two, what do you think we could surrender in this spiritual community? What could we surrender? And number three, what do you think we could surrender in our home life, in our schools, in our world? And so it is with this concept of surrender, this concept of release, releasing that which holds us back. I ask my colleagues, the practitioners, to join me in holding our congregation, our city, our state, our nation, our globe in consciousness. Hold us in love and light, and simply recognize that there is indeed a power in the universe that's greater than we are. And we can use it. We can use it for health. We can use it for wealth. We can use it for wisdom. And we don't have to do all of everything all the time. And so I speak my word now for those who are experiencing health challenges. We don't deny there is disease. We don't deny that there are health challenges in this world. What we deny is that that infinite creative force is less than those challenges. We know that that infinite creative force, God, is not sick, does not have a broken leg. We know that God has a plan. We know that there is that infinite intelligence that can lead us through anything. Speak my word for those who are experiencing lack and limitation. We just simply know that when we open ourselves up to receive, that even the grocer can show up just when we need it. And I speak my word for those who are feeling separation. Separation from one another because of political beliefs or any other belief, religious beliefs, anything that keeps us apart from one another. We recognize that each and every one of us is a creation of that divine source. And as such, we are all brothers and sisters. We know that the human genome is 99.99% identical in each and every one of us. We are one. And so it is with that in mind that we can step forth and love one another. We can never be separate from one another. We can never be separate from God. And so we just give thanks. We give thanks for this awareness. We give thanks for the power and the presence of God. And now we release. We let it go. We let it be. And so it is.